Good morning. I think that's the loudest we've sang in quite a while. So we've been going through our discipleship pathway, and we're taking a break from that, and we're doing a youth message today, but we'll get back into the discipleship pathway here pretty quickly next week. So today we're talking about something completely different, and this message, I got to be honest with you, this message is aimed more at young folks, but it should be all over everyone here, okay? But it is aimed more at young folks, and the title is just that: don't be a thermometer, be a thermostat. So, first and foremost, just so that we know, what is this? Thermometer. And what does it do? Ooh, I think somebody said it, but I'm not sure. Say it again. It, it records the temperature, doesn't it? It tells us what the temperature is. And just so that we know, what is this? And what does it do? It changes the temperature, right? And so that's what I'm saying. When I'm saying don't be a thermometer, be a thermostat. This has no power whatsoever. It this does. It changes the room. So that's what we're going to talk about today, because one reflects the temperature, one influences the temperature. One reacts to whatever is thrown its way. This one leads. When you walk into school in just a few days, right? When you walk into school, which of those are you going to be? Are you going to be the one that just reacts to whatever is thrown its way? Are you going to be the one that sets the temperature? Most young folks in their lives, most of them actually stay being thermometers. If everyone else is negative, they're negative. If everyone else cheats, they cheat. If everyone else is disrespectful, they're disrespectful. If everyone else compromises, they compromise. Now, I prefaced that. Let me just back up for a second, because I prefaced it with most young people. Can I just say most people? Because you guys were shaking your head. All the old people, all the not young people in here were shaking their head up and down when I was talking about that's how they act. But that's how we act too. We typically just reflect whatever else. Paul's saying this. He's saying this. Don't let your age be an excuse. So what is our youth verse? Anybody know it? Go. Somebody jump up. Go. In a list of 6, right? Thank you. Thank you. Listen, that's a tricky verse, and I didn't ask anybody to prepare for it. So I wanted to let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word, in conversation, in charity, in spirit, in faith, and in purity. And so that's what Paul's saying. He said, don't let your age be an excuse. Use that. Instead, be the example. Don't let the room determine what temperature you are. Don't let the room determine that. Walk in that room and change the temperature. Walk in and be the person that changes the temperature. Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example. We're supposed to be the example. We're not supposed to follow everyone else. We should, look at this. It says, let no man despise thy youth. Despise means to think against or to hold against. Don't let anybody think against you because of your youth. And then it says, be an example. That's a pattern for the world to follow. Okay? So we're supposed to act like Jesus did so that others will follow us in that. Okay? And then it says that be thou an example of the believers. And the believers are who? That's us, right? That's the Christ followers. So in other words, don't let people see you and think that just because you're young that you can't be a Christian example. Don't let people see you and think just because you're young you can't follow the Lord. That's really important. So as we're living our life, as we're going through school, as we're going through wherever it is that we go, we're supposed to be setting the example. All right? So here's the thing on this. As we go through these things, I'm going to do just this. So this is showing that it's set at 90. Is anybody too hot at 90? I are too. So let's just set it to where it needs to be. At where? 71? You don't live at my house because mine's 60-something. But we'll go with 71. That's where it's set now. Listen, here's the first thing, the first setting, okay? Since we're talking about a thermostat, the first setting should be, what's it say? Be an example. Your setting should be your words. Should be the mouth. Listen, talking is a huge part of our life, right? It's the main method we have for communication. It's a way to inform others of what we're thinking. It's a way to show others emotion. And like many different things, there are right ways to speak and wrong ways to speak. And in our culture, let me tell you this. In our culture, there are many people, including Christians, that use foul language. All right? And they'll look at you and they'll say, oh, that's not really a cuss word. I call it Christian cussing. Okay? So it's not really a cuss word by somebody's definition. I'll bet if Jesus were sitting next to you, you might say it a different way. And do you remember what I said last week? He is sitting next to you. So listen, that foul language is not setting a Christian example of how we're supposed to talk. In our culture, stealing, lying, and almost every kind of sin has actually been eliminated. Cursing is no different, but just because something has been normalized by this world doesn't mean that it's good. As Christians, we should actually live by a higher standard, a standard that is set by Christ. In Romans 12:2, it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God and what is that good and acceptable and perfect. In Matthew 12:34, Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. So when you hear somebody cussing like a sailor, or not even to that extreme, just cussing, you need to ask, is that what's in your heart? You might need a transplant. Is that what's in your heart? If that's what's coming out of your mouth, it's what's in your heart. People can tell more about you in 5 minutes of conversation than they can in 5 hours of looking at your social media. Listen, young folks, how do you talk when your parents aren't around? What words come out of your mouth when your youth leader's not there close? Hey, not young people. What's your language like when you're not at church? Do your words actually calm people down? Or do they heat people up? Do your words build or destroy? Proverbs 18:21 says this, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Listen, a thermostat Christian speaks life. So this week, as you go back to school in these next few days, you need to become the student that's known for encouraging people instead of the sarcastic brat that nobody wants to be around. 1 Timothy 4:12. That's our verse, right? Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word and in conversation. So wait, now, well, the first one was word and this one's conversation. I always thought that was words back and forth. But the context of this conversation means in your walk. It means in how you actually live. Conversation means your lifestyle or your conduct. So who are you, folks, when no one else is watching? Who are you when no one's around? I'm telling you what, anybody can worship on Sunday morning. Anybody can come on Wednesday night to youth group and worship. Character shows up on Monday morning. Character shows up on Friday night. Your walk should match your talk. If people followed you around school for 1 week, would they know that you belong to Jesus? Would they know that? Not because you wear a Christian shirt, but because you live differently. Because you actually act different than the rest of the world. Your life should preach way before your words. Your life should preach way before your words. The definition of conduct is the manner in which a person behaves. So in short, it's the way we act. So let me ask you, are you always angry? Are you always grumbling, complaining? Are we arrogant? Are we rude? Can people tell just by seeing you that you're a Christian? Matthew 6:33 says, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and these things shall be added unto you. Our conduct, the way we act, should fall in line with the way we seek God. If we're truly seeking God, if we're truly looking for our lives to follow Christ, then and not the attention or the approval of all the rest of the people, our faith will affect our conduct. We'll be less likely to sin. Our conduct is really important in how we set an example. So the first thing was in word. The second thing is in conversation or the way you walk. The third thing is in charity. The world loves people who deserve to be loved. The world loves people that deserves to be loved. Jesus loved the people that crucified him. See, there's a difference in the way the world loves and the way a Christian loves. Anyone can love their friends. Christian influence begins when you love the people that don't deserve it. Christian influence to others, being the example, begins when you love people that don't deserve your love. But let me tell you this, love the lonely kid. Love the kid that's out there all by himself that nobody else is talking to. Love the student that everyone else avoids. They need it. Thermostats don't ask, what are you doing? They ask, what would Jesus do? And more importantly, they do what Jesus did. I saw a T-shirt the other day, and it said WWJD. For the old people, you'll remember that, right? I was just becoming a Christian when those bracelets came out. I was just turning my life over at that point. And brother, you better believe I had one of them. And I would break it, and I would get a new one. I would break it and get a new one because I had this thought in my mind that I ran all my decisions through that bracelet. I know it doesn't make sense to anyone but me, but I was still tempted with so much stuff, and I'd run it through that bracelet. I saw that T-shirt. He said WWJD, big old X on it, big old X, and then under it it said LLJD, live like Jesus did. Love like Jesus did. There's lots of things we can do. We need to be asking the question, what would Jesus do? But we need to be doing what Jesus did. We find it very attractive to latch on to what would Jesus do. We need to live like Jesus did. Sometimes changing the environment or changing the whole temperature means inviting somebody into your life that doesn't have all the benefits you do. Sometimes it's reaching out to the people that not everybody else reaches out to. Sometimes it's not even the coolest kid in school. Guess what? What if you are the coolest kid in school? What kind of influence would you have if you start living like Jesus did? That's pretty important. So the fourth thing is to set your spirit. And in spirit, I mean attitude. Attitude spreads so fast. Negativity spreads so quickly. You don't believe me? You just go start looking at churches. They're the hotbed for negativity a lot of times. Isn't that crazy? The place that we should be the most positive, the most influential, and yet we'll let some bad thing run like crazy through our church. Complaining spreads, fear spreads. But can I just say something this morning? Joy spreads too. Be the catalyst for joy. Be the starter. Be the thermostat for joy. When everybody else is all grumpy and puffed up and mad, be the joy. Ask yourself, when I leave the room, was everyone else encouraged? Or were they just exhausted that I was in there? Listen, people may not remember everything you say. They will remember how you made them feel. So be the catalyst there. Get your settings right on your attitude. The fifth thing is to set your faith. Everybody believes something. The question is this: who do you believe in? Who do you have faith in when things get hard? Listen, faith isn't tested when it's easy, right? We all got an abundance of faith when it's easy. Faith is tested when you're left out of the group, right? Faith is tested when you don't get chosen. Faith is tested when we don't win our competition. Faith is tested when things don't go the way we wanted them to go. Faith is actually proven when life isn't easy. But the Bible has a lot to say about faith, depending on which version. I just want to give you this quick fact. Depending on which version you're reading, the word faith is mentioned as many as 521 times. In Hebrews 11:1, it says this: it says about faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. While we may know what faith is, it's an entirely different thing to actually possess it and have it. I've been around a lot of people in my lifetime now that know exactly what faith is. They have no problem explaining what faith is, but they have no faith. Listen to this verse, Hebrews 11:6. But without faith, it is impossible to please him, him being God. And he is who comes to God. And he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. In other words, you can't please someone you don't know. You can't please someone you don't know. And you cannot know someone you don't believe exists. So, where is your faith? And who is your faith in? I've met a lot of strong men that their faith was in their strength. I've met a lot of really smart women that their faith was in their intelligence. I'm neither strong or intelligent anymore. My faith is in God. Ephesians 2:8-9. For by grace you have been saved through faith. That's where your salvation comes from, right? The Bible tells us that that's where the only real salvation comes from, is through belief in what Jesus Christ did on that cross. That's all we need to do to enter heaven, is to have faith in Jesus. If we have this real faith, we try our best to follow him. As believers, we need to have a good understanding of faith. But faith isn't something that's tangible. It's not something that we have to have physical proof. Because let me tell you this, that if you have faith but it's not expressed or it's not used, it's not real either. Faith isn't just a belief that you have. It's a way of living. It changes the way you act. If we have faith, it'll make us bold. It'll give us the courage to live and to speak the truth of God. How many I'm not going there, but y'all better look out next week. Y'all better look out next week. Faith gives us hope. Faith gives us hope that our eternity is secure and that it's going to be with a God in heaven. And it gives us, as this faith develops within us and grows within us, it creates a desire to know more about that God that we serve, to become closer in our relationship. Listen, when everyone else panics, the thermostat Christian trusts God. When everything else is fallen away, the thermostat Christian follows and has faith in God. Listen, Daniel did that when he was in the lion's den. Esther did that. David did that. Timothy did that. Faith says, I don't know what God is doing, but I know who God is, and I'm staying there. There's so many instances. If you just look back in the last 2 years of our church's history, if you would just look at the last 2 years, and you would say, man, all those things have happened. You guys have had people that were sick. You've lost loved ones. You've done all of this. All things that, I mean, your church burned, so we have a better church. Your building is resurrected. You look at the last 2 years of our church, and we can easily say, I don't know what God is doing, but I know who God is. That's what you can say every day you get to school. I don't know what God is doing, but I know who God is. The sixth thing is set your purity. This is probably the hardest setting to hit, really. Because our culture, listen, our culture is whacked in this area, okay? It is just crazy in this area. Our culture today, the world tells us, watch whatever you want to watch, listen to whatever you want to listen to, date whoever you want to date, act however you want to act. Jesus says, be holy. That's what Jesus said. That's easier. It's one. If Jesus watched everything you guys looked at on your phone this week, would he smile? If Jesus listened to your playlist, what would he hear? Would he be honored by that? If Jesus read all your text messages, this is a great question. If Jesus looked at just your text messages, would he be honored in them? Purity isn't old-fashioned. Purity is powerful. Purity, according to the Bible, means to be morally clean, without blemish. To be morally clean and to abstain from all sin and follow Christ perfectly. And I promise you this, not but one person in here can meet that. No one can be perfect in their own, for sure. But if we are in Christ, Christ views us as pure through his precious blood. Today, most people don't give purity a second thought. This is the craziest thing to me. Today, most people don't give purity a second thought. It's normal to wear very little clothing. It's normal to watch sexually explicit stuff. It's normal to listen to inappropriate songs or use the wrong words. But again, normal does not make it right. Purify, put simply, is freedom from immorality. That starts on the inside, folks. That starts on the inside. Even though God forgives, listen closely here for a second. Even though God forgives our impurity because of what Christ did on the cross, we can't use his grace as an excuse to keep living immorally. Does that make sense? We know that our sins are forgiven because of what Jesus Christ did on the cross. But we can't use that as an excuse to continue to live in an immoral lifestyle. It's wrong to intentionally sin while planning to ask forgiveness for that later. There, that sounded like a very complicated sentence right there. It is morally wrong to intentionally sin while planning to ask for forgiveness of that sin later. That sounds like a very complicated question, but I would guess that it's not one person in here that hadn't done that. We need to turn away from those sins. We need to keep our eyes on Christ. To do that, young folks and not young folks, everyone, to do that, we have to surrender our entire life to Christ. That means everything, body, soul, and spirit. We have to surrender that to Him. Titus 1:15 says, "To the pure, all things are pure. But to the defiled and unbelieving, nothing is pure. But both their minds and their consciences are defiled." Defiled. So those are the 6 things that we need to be an example in. Every thermostat has different settings. You can raise it, you can lower it with these buttons right here, right? Paul says the same thing. You decide your words. You decide your walk. You decide your love. You decide your attitude. You decide your faith. And you decide your purity. Nobody else gets to choose those things for you. When school starts this semester, you're going to walk in the first day, and that school will already have a temperature of some sort. Maybe it's filled with gossip. Maybe it's filled with anxiety. Maybe it's filled with temptation. Maybe it's just filled with anger. The question isn't, what will the temperature be in my school? The question is, what temperature will I set? Now look, I want you to look at this thermostat. We all know how important it is, right? Eric, how important is this thermostat? Listen, this one right here is an example. It's got no power at all. 0. You know why? It's not plugged into anything. See, there's the one that has power. There's the one that has power because it's plugged in. Your thermostat. You are a thermostat, but you have to be plugged into Christ to have any power at all. You can't be out there trying to change the temperature if you're not plugged into Christ. You understand what I'm saying here? This is important. This is important because do you realize that I counted up here and I got sort of a count. There was like 25 kids up here, right? I don't know for sure. There was a bunch of kids up here. Do you realize what a difference that many kids walking in, plugged into Jesus and living like Jesus? Do you realize how much change you could make in a school? You think, well, I'm just one. You're not just one. You're a group. Go change the temperature. Go change the temperature in your school this year. Folks that aren't going to school, go change the temperature in your work. Go change the temperature in your house. Go change the temperature somewhere. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to stay connected to Jesus. Listen to this. In John 15:5, this is what Jesus says. For without me, you can do nothing. Pretty important to stay connected to Jesus. You can't change the atmosphere if you're disconnected. Listen, here's the thing. This morning, there may be some in here that need to connect for the first time. I wouldn't doubt it. And by connecting to Jesus, I mean actually accepting what he did on the cross as payment for your sin. That's how you connect to Jesus. We make a lot of stuff. You'll hear lots of different things, but that's the connection, is the faith that you know Jesus Christ work on the cross did for you. After that, then we start changing. Then we start repenting. Then we start doing a long list of stuff because my heart has been changed, not because of me. But some of you today need to connect to Jesus for the very first time, for the very first reality. Some of you may have walked an aisle before and said some sort of little prayer and got up and didn't change a thing because you didn't really connect. You did a bunch of stuff, but you didn't connect. There may be some of you today that have been connected, but you've grown away. It's time to reconnect to the power so that you can be the thermostat. Because right now you're just a thermometer. This thing here, it's not connected. It's just a glorified thermometer right now telling me what the temperature is. I don't know where you're at. I don't have a clue where you're at with your spiritual walk. I do know this. In a world full of thermometers, we need some thermostats. Let's stand. They're going to play a song. And as they play that song, if you need to connect, if you need to really, truly connect to Christ as your Savior, either the first time or you need to reconnect or whatever the situation in your life is, if you need prayer, these altars are not just for salvation. These altars are to take what is burdening us and lay them down. That's what these altars are for. Folks, this is a day to make a change. This is a day to become the thermostat. Let's bow our heads.